Lenses can be a hot topic when dealing with detachable lens cameras, like DSLRs or professional cameras, but there's also terms like focal length, aperture, and zoom that you're going to want to really understand even when dealing with a fixed lens camera.
Even if you're a new cameraman, you need to have a basic understanding about lenses. So let's break them down real simple and start at the beginning. Not long after cavemen went extinct, film cameras ruled the world, and their lenses were easy to figure out. They measured lenses by their focal length. If you used a lens with a focal length around 50 millimeters, then your film looked similar to what the human eye would see. If you went less than 50 millimeters, your lens became more wide angle and things looked further away. And over 50 millimeters, things started to look closer. We still measure lenses by focal length, but lenses on digital cameras aren't as easy to figure out because they're all different. So just like bow companies compare speed to the IBO standard, camera companies compare modern lenses to the old film lens standard. It's called the 35mm equivalent. Also, the 35mm part has nothing to do with focal length. It's just the name of the old cameras because that was the size of their film. So all you need to do is get on your Google machine and find a good camera website that shows how each lens compares to the old 35mm film lenses. You really only have to do this with fixed lens cameras. Detachable lenses, you just go by your camera's crop factor. So now you're probably wondering, why don't I just look at the camera's zoom rating? Well, zoom ratings are just a marketing trick. A zoom rating takes the longest focal length divided by the shortest focal length, and that's its zoom rating. For example, this lens has a maximum length of 135 millimeters and a shortest focal length of 18 millimeters. So you could say it's a 7.5 times zoom. This other lens makes animals look a lot closer because it goes up to 600 millimeters, but it only has a zoom of 4 times. So a camera can have a lower zoom rating, but can make an animal look closer. That's why a zoom rating is pointless, and you actually have to look at the 35mm equivalent. Now that we can figure out which lenses will make animals look closer, let's talk about quality. Cheap cameras and lenses lack the quality of more expensive lenses. Check out how much the image breaks down with this consumer camera once it's zoomed all the way in. You probably don't want to zoom a consumer camera past 80 to 95%, or your image will become soft and blurry, regardless of what you do with your focus. They're all different though, so you should test your camera to see how far you can zoom before the image starts to break down. Alright, enough about focal length. Let's move on to lenses with large apertures. The aperture is just a hole inside the lens that all light has to pass through. So the bigger the hole, the more light's going to pass through. Also, you'll hear people use the words aperture, iris, and f-stop interchangeably because they're all talking about the same thing. Technically, the aperture is the hole, the iris is the mechanism that changes the size of the hole, and the f-stop is the measurement of light coming through the hole. So a lens with a large aperture is beneficial for 2 reasons. First, it lets your camera see better in low light, which means you get a brighter image, better focus, and less noise from your camera's gain or ISO. The second benefit is a shallower depth of field, which means a really blurry background to give your video a more cinematic look. Overall, a better quality lens gives you better image quality. Okay, so a couple of other points about lenses. Wide-angle lenses and telephoto lenses distort stuff. So a wide-angle lens, we said that it makes everything look farther from the camera, which is true, but it also makes all objects within your image look farther from each other. And a telephoto lens does the opposite. So not only does it make things look closer to the camera, but it makes all objects look closer to each other. So it's basically compressing everything in space. All right, next up we're looking at camera support gear like tripods and a whole bunch of other stuff, and also audio, which is really important.